Ever felt completely exhausted after listening to someone's tragic story online and then immediately hated yourself for being a cold, heartless monster? Stop. You're not lacking empathy. You're just being manipulated. Welcome to the dark psychology of weaponized trauma. We live in an era that aggressively romanticizes brokenness. Open up any social media app, and within 3 swipes, you will inevitably stumble across someone airing out their deepest, darkest psychological wounds for public consumption. Society has collectively agreed to label this behavior as brave and authentic. We are told that vulnerability is the ultimate virtue. But here is the cynical truth that no one wants to admit. Not all vulnerability is a cry for help. Sometimes it is a highly calculated strategy. Think about that friend or influencer who constantly broadcasts their emotional crises. Whenever you interact with their content, you likely experience a very specific, quiet kind of guilt. You feel drained. You feel a creeping sense of resentment, and then you immediately punish yourself for feeling that resentment because, after all, they are the ones suffering. How dare you feel annoyed? That guilt you are feeling is not a malfunction of your moral compass. It is the exact intended outcome of the empathy trap. We have been conditioned to believe that exposing a wound is always an invitation for healing. But in the digital age, trauma has evolved. For a very specific subset of people, trauma is no longer a burden to be overcome. It is a shield. It is a free pass. It is an impenetrable suit of armor made of tears, designed to ensure they never have to take accountability for anything, ever again. They aren't sharing to connect with you. They are weaponizing their trauma to control you. When you hear the word narcissist, what instantly pops into your head? Probably a loud, arrogant CEO, a reality TV star obsessed with their own reflection, or that one ex who physically could not stop talking about how amazing they were. We are culturally trained to spot the grandiose narcissist from a mile away. But the most dangerous type of narcissist doesn't walk into a room demanding applause. They walk in with teary eyes, a heavy sigh, and a perfectly rehearsed tragedy. Welcome to the world of the covert narcissist, or, as clinical psychology sometimes calls it, the vulnerable narcissist. To understand weaponized trauma, you have to dissect this specific personality architecture. The grandiose narcissist thrives on superiority and admiration. They want you to think they are fundamentally better than you. The covert narcissist, however, thrives on victimhood and pity. But here is the psychological plot twist that most people miss. To the covert mind, pity and admiration are the exact same currency. Both guarantee that they remain the center of the universe. Both force you to focus entirely on them. Let's talk about the untouchable status. In the social hierarchy of the modern internet, victimhood is the ultimate trump card. If someone posts a seemingly raw, vulnerable essay about their crippling anxiety, their toxic ex, or how the universe has fundamentally wronged them, they instantly build an invisible, bulletproof fortress around themselves. Why? Because society dictates that you cannot criticize a bleeding wound if you dare to call them out on their actual toxic behavior. Say, they lied to you, they financially exploited you, or they are just incredibly selfish. They will immediately deploy their trauma as a smokescreen. How can you be mad at me for crossing your boundaries? Don't you know I'm dealing with severe abandonment trauma from a past relationship? Just like that, the script is flipped. You are no longer the aggrieved party. You have been successfully recast as the callous, unfeeling abuser who lacks empathy for a fragile soul. This is the ultimate goal of the covert narcissist: immunity. If they are permanently established as the victim, they are permanently excused from the basic adult responsibility of being a decent person. But you might be thinking, wait, aren't they being brave by showing their flaws to the world? No. Pay very close attention to what they actually choose to share. They are engaging in a brilliant psychological PR strategy called curated imperfection. They never, ever overshare the ugly truths. You will never see a post saying, "I manipulated my partner today because my ego is fragile," or "I gossiped to ruin someone's reputation out of pure, unadulterated envy." Instead, they share highly aesthetic, socially acceptable flaws. They share things that make them look like a tragic hero in a coming-of-age indie film. I care too much and always get taken advantage of. My empathy makes me isolate because I'm so overwhelmed by the cruelty of the world. It's an incredibly sanitized, highly filtered version of vulnerability. It is meticulously designed to extract your sympathy without ever damaging their underlying halo. It is not a confession, it is a performance. And this brings us to the darkest realization about people who weaponize trauma. We naturally assume that because they are constantly talking about their pain, they are desperately trying to heal from it. That is the grand illusion. The devastating truth is that they have absolutely no intention of healing. Because if they heal, they lose their leverage. If they get better, they become just another regular person who has to apologize when they mess up. Their real goal isn't recovery, it's total, absolute immunity. Now, we arrive at the first major psychological twist of this entire phenomenon. I want you to think about the physical sensation you get when you are reading one of these oversharing posts, or listening to a friend trauma dump on you for the 4th time this week. Your chest gets a little tight. You feel a bizarre, heavy mix of obligation and suffocation. You probably assume that suffocation is just the weight of their sadness transferring onto you. It isn't. The reason you feel suffocated is not because their story is profoundly sad. It is because, psychologically speaking, they are holding a gun to your head and demanding a reaction. You are not a passive audience member. You are an emotional hostage. To understand exactly how they trapped you, we need to talk about forced intimacy. In healthy human relationships, intimacy is built slowly. It is a mutually agreed upon exchange of trust over time. You don't hand the keys to your house to a stranger you met 5 minutes ago. But weaponized trauma bypasses all of that by suddenly dropping a massive, unprompted emotional bombshell into your lap. Or onto your timeline. The oversharer is forcing a level of intimacy that you never consented to. It is a blatant boundary violation masked as a bid for connection. It is the emotional equivalent of a stranger handing you a live grenade and whispering, "If you drop this, I die." You didn't ask for the grenade, but now, if you walk away, you are the villain. This brings us to one of the most brilliant and manipulative frameworks in modern psychology, the Karpman drama triangle. Developed by Dr. Stephen Karpman in the 1960s, this triangle maps out the toxic social dynamics that manipulative people use to control situations and evade responsibility. There are 3 roles in this triangle: the victim, the rescuer, and the persecutor. When a covert narcissist posts their weaponized trauma online, they are firmly and dramatically planting their flag on the victim corner of the triangle. But a victim cannot exist in a vacuum. A victim requires a supporting cast to validate their identity. Social media takes this dynamic and puts it on steroids. They aren't just looking for one person. They are crowdsourcing an entire mob of rescuers. By forcing this public intimacy onto you, they are violently shoving you into the role of the rescuer. You didn't audition for this play, but suddenly the spotlight is on you. You are expected to leave a supportive comment, to send a comforting text, to validate their pain, and to tell them that they are so brave and so incredibly strong. But what happens if you don't want to play the rescuer? What if you are tired? What if you suggest that maybe, just maybe, they played a part in their own misery? What if you offer a logical, practical solution instead of blind pity? This is where the trap snaps shut with bone-crushing force. The absolute second you fail to perform the rescuer role exactly the way they scripted it, they will instantly reassign you to the role of the persecutor. You are no longer their friend. You are the attacker. You are invalidating their reality. You are toxic. You are gaslighting them. They will screenshot your completely reasonable, boundary-setting text message and post it online to prove how cruel the world is to them. They will weaponize the therapy buzzwords of the day to tear you down, all while maintaining their pristine, untouchable status as the helpless victim. It is a completely rigged game. If you engage and validate them, you drain your own mental energy to feed an ego that is essentially a black hole. If you disengage, set a boundary, or disagree, you become the villain in their next trauma narrative. You are trapped in a lose-lose scenario, brilliantly engineered by someone who claims to be utterly powerless. You need to realize a hard truth right now. When they share these devastating, hyper-personal things with you, they are not confiding in you because you are special. They are not trusting you with their heart. You are simply the nearest available battery. You are a prop in their psychological theatre, and the play they are putting on is, and always will be, entirely about them. In a world where flawless, filtered perfection is heavily suspected and actively mocked, pain has quietly become the most valuable cryptocurrency on the internet. We have completely transitioned from an economy of aspiration to an economy of affliction. Think about how we got here. 10 years ago, you flexed your wealth, your vacations, or your perfect relationship. But the culture shifted. Audiences got bored of perfection. They craved relatability. And somehow, in the dark, twisted machinery of social media algorithms, relatability mutated into a morbid competition. Welcome to the Oppression Olympics. This is a very real sociological phenomenon where individuals actively, though sometimes subconsciously, compete to prove they have suffered more deeply, more unfairly, and more consistently than anyone else in the room. Why would anyone want to win a competition of misery? Because in the modern digital landscape, whoever claims the most trauma instantly captures the moral high ground. If you are the most marginalized, the most heartbroken, or the most traumatized person in the comment section, you are automatically perceived as the most enlightened. Suffering is no longer just an unfortunate human experience to be navigated and overcome. It is a credential. It is a VIP pass that grants you the absolute authority to lecture, judge, and police the behavior of everyone else around you. You cannot disagree with them, because disagreeing with someone who is suffering is a social crime. This brings us to a terrifying psychological paradox: power through powerlessness. Historically, human beings exerted control by demonstrating strength, intelligence, or physical resources. But pathological victimhood flips this entirely on its head. To understand this, we must separate situational victimhood from pathological victimhood. Situational victimhood is when something terrible happens to you, a car crash, a layoff, a bad breakup, and you seek support to recover. Pathological victimhood is when being the victim ceases to be an event and becomes your entire foundational identity. The covert narcissist realizes that there is an immense, intoxicating amount of power in being absolutely helpless. Think about a screaming infant in a crowded room. That infant is objectively the weakest entity in the building, yet it completely dictates the behavior, attention, and stress levels of every capable adult present. Pathological victims operate on the exact same frequency, just with a much better vocabulary. By broadcasting their brokenness, they command the attention, resources, and emotional labor of their entire social network. They don't need to be strong to control you, they just need to convince you that they are so incredibly fragile that if you don't do exactly what they want, they will shatter into a million pieces, and it will be entirely your fault. This isn't vulnerability, it's a hostage negotiation where the ransom is your constant, unwavering validation. And how exactly do they spend this newly acquired currency of pain? They use it to fund their weaponized incompetence. This is where the manipulation reaches its absolute peak. You will notice that people who weaponize trauma rarely use it as a stepping stone for personal growth. Instead, they use it as an airtight, socially impenetrable alibi for being a terrible person. I can't hold a job, show up on time, or pay you back because my executive dysfunction, rooted in childhood trauma, makes expectations too triggering for me. Or, my personal favorite, I know I screamed at you, insulted your character, and ruined your birthday, but my fearful avoidant attachment style was activated. My nervous system was dysregulated, so you actually need to apologize to me for triggering my trauma response. Do you see what just happened? They have weaponized the sacred, clinical language of therapy to justify the most toxic, selfish behaviors imaginable. They construct an elaborate alternate reality where they are never, ever the perpetrator, but rather the perpetual casualty of a cruel world that just doesn't understand their complex trauma. It is a brilliant, diabolical inversion of reality. We are taught to fear the strong, the aggressive, the loud and demanding figures in our lives. But the truth is, the most powerful and controlling person in your digital orbit isn't the one yelling the loudest. It is the one who has successfully convinced you that they are too broken to ever be held accountable. If you are watching this and realizing that you feel completely emotionally numb towards certain people in your life, you might be experiencing a secondary wave of guilt right now. You might be asking yourself, am I just a cold person? Why don't I care about their suffering anymore? Let me clear your conscience right now. The apathy you are feeling is not a sign that you are a terrible, broken person. It is a highly evolved survival mechanism of your brain. To understand why you feel so incredibly drained by these individuals, we have to look at your neurobiology. Human beings are equipped with a fascinating piece of hardware called mirror neurons. These are the brain cells responsible for empathy. When you see someone experiencing pain or joy, your mirror neurons literally fire in a way that mimics their emotional state, allowing you to feel what they feel. It is a beautiful system designed for tribal bonding and mutual support. But there is a fatal glitch in the system. Your mirror neurons were designed to respond to acute, occasional crises in a tight-knit community. They were absolutely not designed to process a relentless, 24/7 broadcast of curated misery. When a covert narcissist constantly trauma dumps on you, they are actively hijacking this neural pathway. They are forcing your brain to expend massive amounts of metabolic energy processing a crisis that isn't yours, and frankly, a crisis they have no intention of actually solving. This is the literal definition of emotional vampirism. Notice how, after a 2-hour conversation where they complain about their life, they suddenly feel so much better, while you feel like you need to sleep for 3 business days. They just used your nervous system as an external hard drive for their toxic waste. Because this manipulation happens under the guise of vulnerability, your normal psychological defenses never activate. If someone walks up to you and insults your face, your boundaries snap up instantly. You know you're being attacked, but when someone walks up to you and bleeds on you, your boundaries dissolve. You let them in. Over time, this constant exposure causes severe boundary erosion. You start losing track of where their emotional state ends and your mental stability begins. This leads to a clinical state known as compassion fatigue. You have not lost your fundamental human ability to care. You have simply bankrupted your emotional reserves by continuously investing in a black hole. This brings us to the most important and validating realization of this entire video. Think about that sudden wave of annoyance, that sharp feeling of cringe, or that heavy, exhausting sigh you let out the second you see their name pop up on your phone. Society has conditioned you to suppress that feeling because it feels mean. I am telling you to listen to it. Your body is infinitely smarter than your socially conditioned politeness. That sudden wave of disgust and suffocation is not a character flaw. It is your autonomic nervous system sounding the alarm. It is your subconscious rapidly recognizing that you are in the presence of a predator. Only this specific predator hunts for pity instead of flesh. Your absolute exhaustion is not proof that you are a bad friend. It is the healthiest, most accurate, and most biologically appropriate response your body could possibly have to covert manipulation. So, how exactly do you disarm a psychological weapon? Your very first instinct is probably to call them out. You want to confront them, expose their hypocrisy, and present them with a logical, bullet-pointed list of exactly how they are manipulating you. Do not do this. Remember the Cartman drama triangle. If you argue with them, you are immediately walking right into the trap. You are volunteering for the role of the persecutor. You are not holding them accountable. You are just handing them brand new, premium material for their next public victim narrative. Instead, you must deploy a psychological defense mechanism known as the grey rock method. People who weaponize trauma operate like emotional vampires. They feed on your reactions. They want your tears, your outrage, your frantic attempts to save them, or your profound, groveling sympathy. The grey rock method is the practice of becoming the most emotionally uninteresting, utterly unreactive person in the room. When they drop a massive, unprompted trauma bomb on you to force intimacy, you do not gasp. You do not ask follow-up questions. You do not try to fix their life. You respond with the emotional equivalent of a dial tone. That sounds tough. Okay, I see. You offer absolutely zero emotional currency. You become a grey rock. When they realize that your nervous system is no longer an ATM they can withdraw validation from, they will pack up their curated tragedy and move on to a much easier target. To execute this, you have to fundamentally redefine your understanding of empathy. We have been sold a toxic lie that being a good, empathetic person means setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. It doesn't. Empathy is a beautiful, vital human trait. But empathy without ironclad boundaries is just self-destruction. You have to stop viewing your emotional availability as a free charity clinic for people who absolutely refuse to save themselves. Walking away from someone who uses their pain to manipulate you does not make you a bad, unfeeling person. It makes you an adult who respects your own mind. Refusing to participate in their psychological theatre is not an act of cruelty. It is the highest, purest form of empathy you can possibly have for yourself. Have you ever felt emotionally held hostage by someone playing the perpetual victim? Which chapter of this breakdown resonated with you the deepest? Drop down into the comments and let me know your story. I read every single one of them. And if you want to keep arming yourself with the deep psychology they don't want you to know about, hit that subscribe button right now. I will see you in the next video.